Hi guys, hope everyone's well. We're going to have a quick look at Bitcoin. It's Tuesday morning UK time. So before we go on, we do have this webinar. There's a few spots available. It's going to be with Senex FX, who's a full-time Forex trader. He's really big on Twitter. You can follow him on @Senex FX, Senex_FX. So it's the second one we've done and probably will be the final one. So it won't be available on Shopify afterwards. So if you guys are interested, you can join. And what we're going to be looking at is the secrets of trading the trend with the big boys, okay? Because we all know it's the large banks, the smart money. Sound like Wave 618 there, don't I? It's the smart money, the big banks, and they move the major markets, okay? And especially in Forex, where you don't really have volume, there's no way of really interpreting where the large money is coming in. And so if you guys are trading Forex, indices, and even crypto to a large extent, this will be a webinar for you guys. So it's going to be over 2 hours. We're going to kick it off by talking about the 3 steps to long-term independence for a full-time trader, and then Forex, and then Senex is going to go over his 3 Ps that he uses to determine the trend in the market and to determine where it's going to be going. So the first is the path. P for path, first entry, path of least resistance. How to identify where the big money is moving, how to see that money, and single and sequential impulses, which I've never spoken about myself. So this is a very key point to the whole thing. Then we're going to go into the pattern, how to actually join the trend. So once you've identified the trend, how to actually join on, how to position your trade, how to use a simple correction pattern such as a bull or bear flag to join the dominant trend, and then safety in numbers, the importance of patterns completing. Then we're going to kick it off into the precision, how to maximize your profit, and trade management. So the big reason for doing this webinar is because we've noticed a lot of traders, not just cryptos but Forex and indices, they don't really have an idea of where the trend is going and how to identify that. So they're trying to catch falling knives, as is with Bitcoin, which we'll get onto in a minute, and they're also trying to predict tops. Now, when you're very, very experienced like we are, you could probably have an attempt at doing that, but for non-experienced investors and traders, novices, it's better just to stick to the trend and then jump onto it. So a lot of important sort of psychology lessons we're going to be trading, a lot of strategies which we're going to go over. Like I said, there's this 15-minute bull flag pattern which we're going to go over, and that has proved to be very, very profitable, okay? Even if you just trade that one pattern, you'll make a lot of money in these markets. And then we're going to kick it off by going into the 3 most recommended reading books into this area. So all of the first bit will take around 60 to 70 minutes, after which point we're going to cover the major markets very quickly, okay? As you guys know, I'm also having a look at silver and gold, the Nasdaq, the SPX. We're going to both have a look at DXY and oil, because there's a lot of educational lessons and targets to be learned from the dollar chart and from the oil chart, okay? Both of which are very important moving forward in the economy as this economic cycle is starting to peak or is approaching that sort of peaking phase. And then I'm going to have a detailed look into the FANG stock. So that'll take around 20 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. So there's a lot to cover here. It's going to be the last one that we do. It won't be available on Shopify. Everyone who signs up will receive a recording. I know it's the World Cup on Saturday, but there's not any teams which are playing that I know between 2 p.m. And 4 p.m. my time. And even if there are, you can always just sign up and then we'll send you a recording. Now, last time there were problems with the streaming link. Well, this time it will be screen recorded and sent over Dropbox, so there should be no reason why why anyone should be having problems with the stream. The only thing I do say is please do download the link within 48 hours of receiving it. Everything will be sent to your PayPal address. If you want another email address, just email me first on financialfreedom007@outlook.com and notify me what the new email address is and where you would like the link to the webinar sent. The link is sent around 15 to 30 minutes before the webinar starts. Okay, and it works best on Microsoft Edge browser. Okay, so that's the webinar. This Saturday, 16th of June, 2 p.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern, and secrets of trading the trend with the big players. Okay, so hope to see you all there. There's around 5 spots left. A lot of demand for this given the last time that we did one, and given this will probably be the last one for at least another 3 or 4 months, if not the last one that we do together. So a lot of things to learn. It's important to get different perspectives when it comes to this game. So you get 2 for the price of 1. So very, very fairly priced. So okay, let's go into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has obviously had this big dump coming down. This is very hard to count. Okay, this is not an easy count to just suddenly say, okay, that's a 1, that's a 2, that's all a 3, that's a 4, that's a 5. It's a very difficult count, because you can read it as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also you can read it as an A, a B, and some sort of C pattern. It's a very difficult count. It's not easy, because if this was a 1, this was a 2, that's a very shallow 2, and here you don't really get the division that you want in a wave 3. There's a lot of overlap here. So, you know, this to me looks very, very 3-wave-ish. This to me from here to here looks like a 3, a 3, a 3, almost as if it's an expanded flat type pattern. I mean, technically it's not, so it's like an expanded running flat pattern to make a B wave, and here it's almost as if we have another zigzag going on, another 5, 3, 5. So that's the way I'm reading it. Either way, we're going to be going lower, and looking at this on a more smaller time frame, if we say, so what I was going to say is, if we say the larger count is this, something like this, some sort of 3-wave correction. But as I've just said, it's very hard to read this, and it could easily be a very, very bearish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we just take the fibs, let's say we take it from here to here, well, A, B, C, B, so that B peaked out around here. 1 to 1 is here, 1.13 is here, and 1.236 is here, 6397, which is also the previous low. So there is some Fibonacci resistance and support, so to speak, at that level. Now, if we also do another fib of this B wave, I mean of this C wave, or this Y wave, I presume it would be then. 0.76 is here, 1 to 1 is here, so it could go as low as 6227 actually, so that might be a possible target. But this is now very difficult to read. So if we break this wave down a little bit more, this in itself could possibly be a 1, a 2, and this is all a 3. All of this that is done as of Sunday evening was all a 3. This looks way too overlappy to be a 1, 2, 1, 2 stack. So this is probably a 4. So it looks as though we're going to make some sort of leg down. We're going to end up breaking this low here off 6635 to finish a wave 5. And then, you know, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is now very, very bearish. I'm not going to be buying this low here, but for you guys who are trading this, I suppose on this new low there will be some divergence kicking in. I mean, you can see it on the 1 hourly chart. You can see a bit of divergence probably creeping in with this wave 5, and also we know with the Elliott wave oscillator, it tends to go crazy and peak on a wave 3, which makes me think all of that down on to Sunday evening was actually just a wave 3. And also on the MACD, the big surge is typically the wave 3, which is exactly what we get here. So whenever you see a big surge down, that's probably a wave 3. So with this wave 5, this is going to go down, end up creating this divergence. So you know, it's not something that I'm going to trade myself personally, because it's so bearish and this line is now broken. But I suppose if you're a bit of a hero, which many of you are, then I suppose these two levels might be something that you want to have a look at. So because that is a 5 wave and this is probably a 5 wave, so that is probably an ABC in itself. Then technically this is not an ABC, this would then be a WXY. So if you really had to break this down, it's probably a WXY into an X, and an A, B, C into a Y. Hope everyone can see that. But either way, it's bearish. We can't just use Elliott wave here. We've got to understand the larger picture. So for investors, this is not a buy. For heroes, I suppose you could buy. The problem is that this triangle was quite a big, quite a significant break. This is not just a simple sort of thing. This was supporting the price ever since February. So because of that, I don't think this is a high probability trade. This, if you trade the next low in Bitcoin, I'm not sure how high it's going to go. Now, there is a lot of talk about this CME futures contract and how the gaps close, and it's true, but at the same time, gaps don't have to close. There can be continuation gaps where it just ends up going back into here, never closing this gap and just continuing to drift lower. But if you guys are being heroes and you see there's some bullish divergence here, and there's some volume coming in here, and I suppose if you want to trade this, maybe on the way back up it will end up hitting this sort of line again on maybe closing this gap. So if you guys are going to trade this gap close, you can probably buy the next low in Bitcoin and trade it up, and then it end up rolling over. But don't just think because there's a gap it has to get closed. Okay, I've seen gaps which don't get closed for months and months, like on Google and Apple and Facebook. They gapped up probably around 6-7 months ago, and they've been going higher ever since, and at no point in time have any of the FANG stocks closed those gaps from 6 months to a year ago. So and if you Google up, if you Google continuation gaps, you'll then know the difference. So sometimes it's so bearish or so bullish that you get a gap and then it becomes a continuation gap where it just continues to roll over. But I suppose if you guys are trading this, then the next low, and maybe there'll be a gap close, but I'm not convinced. For me, this is now looking very, very bearish, and so I think we're going to end up going a lot lower here, so to at least this trend line from the Genesis, or at least 4200, and I think possibly it will go even lower than that, as I've said. So I don't think we're anywhere near done here, and I don't think people should be catching falling knives. Don't know where the volume's gone here. Volume. Okay, there you go. So, very, very bearish volume there. That is, on Bitstamp, that's the highest 4-hour volume that we've pretty much, if we discard this, the highest bearish volume that we've had since the 25th of April. So, what's the date today? So, pretty much in 6 weeks. And, the weekly candle isn't looking healthy. So, whilst I agree there might be some divergence on a new low, and there might be some support anywhere between, 6,200 and 6,400, and that might trade up towards a gap close, it's too risky for me to even entertain trading that. This is a complete structural breakdown, and on the daily chart, I mean, everything's looking really bad here. Everything's looking really, really bad. This is the line, by the way. This is the line from the Genesis. Very, very bearish. Volume is starting to pick up. While previously it was going down, now it's starting to go up. Got the Fed meeting tomorrow. They could do anything. Will affect the wider markets. They're probably going to raise interest rates, but I may have some overspill effect into Bitcoin. Looking at the VPVR here on the right hand side, well, there's no volume here, is there, until we get to here. So really, it could go as low as 5,800 and then have a bit of a leg up. But once that breaks, once this low from February breaks, really there's no volume at all until we get down to here. And so 4,200 for many reasons makes a lot of sense. It's also the next fib level. The next fib level down. And that's where the Genesis line is. I actually think it'll go a little bit lower. I think everyone's waiting for this line to be hit. And I think it will go lower. So for me, I'm not going to trade this at all. There's only short trades to be had here because the trend is very, very clearly down. And but this has to break it down into some sort of A, some sort of B, I suppose, and then some sort of C. So I suppose it might get a bit of a bullish run. But obviously the other count is just a very, very bearish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are just these are just 1 2 1 2 patterns, so 1 2 1 2 1 2, meaning it's the 1 2 off the wave 3. So that's very, very bearish when you see that. So that's my thoughts on Bitcoin. I don't think long trades are worth it. You're trading very much against the trend. There's a complete breakdown here on the weekly chart. So this 50 EMA has been supporting the price ever since, effectively here, since 2015, in the previous bear market. And once it blew above that, it never really came below it until a few times when it wick down, went up, wick down, didn't close below, and right now we've had 2 closes below. So we've confirmed the bearish candle from the 21st of May. So we've closed below the low of this candle here. This was not a confirmation close. While it did close below, you want the next candle to close below the low of the candle you're referencing. So this candle here is the confirmation. This candle here, this now confirms it's below the 50-week moving average, and that will likely put pressure on the price now, and it's going to just lead it all the way down, just like it did here. So once it's that wasn't a confirmation. Once it closed below on this candle, it confirmed this candle. It might go back to retest. It's going to end up going lower. So we are front running the last bear market by at least 2 or 3 months. So while this bottomed out in January, December sort of time, I think this will probably bottom out by September. So we are getting very close here towards this final shakeout low, and this line is the line I'm referring to from the start, really, and that line comes in right here. So this is what I've been warning of. I mean, I started warning people all the way here on the way up, rather than a lot of people here. But shout out to Tone Vase and shout out to Sven Link. Those are the only 2 people who I believe have been bearish from the start, who I've seen anyway. And yeah, we've got this uptick in red volume here. So none of this is healthy. I'm not going to trade it to a gap close. As far as I'm concerned, there's complete structural breakdown here, and after a large week we get a doji, large week doji, large week doji. So don't be surprised if this week nothing really happens, and then next week we continue this bearish trend. So this triangle, there's a lot of effect here, so there's a lot of cause here, and that's going to cause this effect to at least 4,200, if not less, if not the lower targets that I've been talking about, sort of 3,000 ish. And looking at Bitcoin Google Trends, it's trending down to 9. In the last time it was at the bear market, we had a score of like literally, I believe it was 2, yeah, so 2 or 3. So 2 or 3 back then, and then 2 or 3 again. So that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for this Google trend to hit a level that's been support from before, and this has pretty much matched the price on the way up and the way down. So this is exactly what we want. We don't want anyone to be talking about Bitcoin, because we want to buy in at the bottom with the professionals. So 9 is a good score. I'm waiting for this to get less than 5. I'm probably around that 2 or 3 level, and that's where things get very interesting. But you need to be psychologically ready to buy, because every bone in your body will be telling you Bitcoin's going to crash and it's not ready to buy, and everyone around you will be telling you not to buy Bitcoin. But those are the same people who told you to buy Bitcoin at the top. They'll be telling you to sell it here. But we all know we do the opposite of the herd. So and also on the RSI, it's now making its way towards 30, which I've been talking about for quite some time. So and 30 RSI and a Google trend score of 3, that is the kind of thing that you want to see. You want to see really oversold levels of really cheap Bitcoin, and that's when the bargain hunters and the professionals are going to get in. So that's what we're waiting for this downtick to here. So there's not much time remaining here. We're going to end up resolving this at some point in the fall. RSI is now at 44, so things are getting cheap. No one's talking about Bitcoin. That's exactly what we want to see. Because you do the opposite of the of the herd, and it's the professionals who are going to quietly buy Bitcoin. So while Jim Cramer and his buddies and Tom Lee are probably going to switch and say, here, you want to get rid of Bitcoin, well, guess what? That's going to be the time to buy, because once the big money gets in, they're going to support the price, and then we're going to get this amazing movement towards these much higher targets, to at least 50, 60, 100,000. So good times are coming, but we just need to get through this downturn first. But I think there's a lot more to go here. I mean, to at least 4,200, that there's at least another 40% to go, if not more. So being in cash is never a bad thing, as I've been saying for a very long time. So I called it here, December the 7th, and I actually knew back in November, and even September, frankly, I mean, I knew it was going to hit 20,000 all the way back here. So Elliott Wave allows you to predict things well ahead of time. So if you guys want to know how I do it, just go into my Shopify site and you can have a look. So I'll call it a day there with Bitcoin. As I said, if you guys want to join the webinar, there's a lot to learn. I think even for you crypto guys, you'll learn a lot from trading with the big players. You're getting 2 for the price of 1 for 2 hours, and you will receive a recording. So it's very reasonably priced. So if you guys want to follow and join, there's about 5 spots left. It's the link is in the description, and we hope to see you guys there. And if you're trading Bitcoin, just be very careful now. There's complete breakdown of the charts, and sometimes you just need to accept that you made the wrong call. Just go into cash and just let it fall, and things will get very interesting around this sort of end of July, August, September time, when things will be very cheap, and that's when a lot of people are going to jump in. There's a lot of smart money and big money waiting on the sidelines here, and they're not going to wait around for too long, because there's only so much lower Bitcoin can go. I mean, that's 80%, it's 85% to 3,000. So at some point people are going to jump on, but that point I'm referring to is probably going to be a lot lower than this low here, 5,900. So if there's any chance of it going below that, which is very high, why would you want to still be holding it at this price? This is why I've been telling people to be very careful with what they're doing. So let's see what happens. Let's see what well-timed bad news comes out, and I'll catch you guys on Saturday. See you guys soon.